What's up, Mafia? Mike Vrabel's personal life is blowing up, and it might blow up the A.J. Brown trade with it. Clint Hurt stood up in the draft room and said, "You give me UAR Bernard," and I'm telling you, that moment is going to matter for years. There are a few names already being lined up as potential trade pieces, and more than one could be on the move. And Kenny Moore is available, and if the Eagles are smart, they make that call today. We've got a lot of stuff to get into today, so let's get it mixing. So here's what's happening. Mike Vrabel reported that this A.J. Brown trade to New England is basically hinging on Mike Vrabel. A.J. Brown wants to play for him. That's the whole reason why New England is in this conversation in the first place. But there are videos surfacing from 2001 of Vrabel and reporter Diana Rossini on a boat together. And Rossini is visibly pregnant. The mainstream media is involved, and I can tell you from this standpoint, I don't think this thing is going away. Adam Schefter even went on the Fanatics this week and said Vrabel has zero plans to step down right now.
That right now there are zero plans for Mike Vrabel has zero plans to step down. Patriots don't have any plans for him to step down. Today, as we've seen in this particular situation, it continues to take twists and turns where you think the story may be subsiding and it's not. And I would say that as long as there are no other flare-ups or revelations or videos or pictures or whatever it may be, as long as there's nothing else, I would fully expect Mike Vrabel to coach next year.
Schefter said that Vrabel's job should be secure, as long as there's no more flare-ups, no more photos, no more videos, and no more revelations. Well, as you can see here, there are more photos. Mike Florio was direct about it. The biggest reason A.J. Brown wants to be a Patriot is because of Mike Vrabel. So what happens if Vrabel steps down mid-training camp? What happens if this whole thing blows up before June 1st? Does A.J. Brown still want to be in New England? And does New England still want to pay a first round and a second round for a guy whose whole reason for being there just walked out the door? Even Jordan Mailata went on WIP this week and basically confirmed that this whole thing is happening.
I'm gonna miss AJ. I don't care what anybody says in the media, man. AJ is a hell of a teammate.
There you go.
Obviously, I'm gonna miss him. He's a great person, hell of a teammate, and you know if that stuff is out of our control, man. And so, right now, with all that noise going on, we're just focused on, again, we're coming in, we got to lift, we got to run. And that's about it.
Okay.
You know, so
way to lock in.
On right now is just locking in on the goal right now is whoever's showing up at OTAs, and that's what we're doing.
Okay, sounds good.
Everything else is all noise, man, all white noise that we have no control over, man. But he's a hell of a teammate, brother.
He said, "I'm going to miss him," and that he's a hell of a teammate. That doesn't sound like a guy who thinks A.J. Brown is coming back. So to me, I think this trade still happens. I just don't know if New England is the landing spot anymore. But while everyone's focused on what's leaving the team, let me tell you about something that's building quietly on the defensive end, and it all starts with one coach. Clint Hurt stood up in the front of the draft room before day 3 and said, "You give me UAR Bernard," a guy who's never played a snap of organized football a day in his life. Grew up in a small town in Nigeria with zero experience. And Hurt looked directly at the Eagles front office and said, "I trust myself, and I believe in this kid."
Bernard, I understand he hasn't played, but this kid's got more talent in his body physically than the other guys, some of the guys that got drafted in the first 2 days. I'd love to get my hands on him. Explosive, violent, heavy-handed kid, ton of upside, developmental guy, but I trust myself and I believe in the kid.
UAR Bernard went in the 7th round, and honestly, this might end up being the biggest steal of the entire draft class. Just think about what Clint Hurt has already done. Jalen Carter, developed. Jordan Davis, developed. Moro Jomo, Milton Williams, all developed by Clint Hurt. He interviewed for the Miami Dolphins defensive coordinator job this past offseason, and he withdrew. And why is that, you might ask? Because the Eagles made a big play to keep him. And to me, I think they're grooming Clint Hurt to be the next defensive coordinator when Vic Fangio eventually does step away. And that could be as soon as after this season. So when Clint Hurt says he wants Bernard, the Eagles just don't draft him for right now. They draft him for the next 3 to 4 years of development under a coach who's going to be running the next defense. UAR Bernard is described as explosive, violent, heavy-handed with a ton of upside. We got a day 3 steal that could turn into a cornerstone for the defensive line for years to come. Now, let's talk about some guys who might not be here much longer. 3 names that could be traded this offseason include Keeley Ringo, Grant Calcaterra, and Andy Dalton. Let's start with Keeley Ringo. Chance after chance after chance, Vic Fangio tried to give him the starting spot, and the man couldn't even beat out Adoree Jackson, a bridge corner who couldn't get a second contract anywhere else. The Eagles let Darius Slay walk. They also let Isaiah Rodgers walk, basically because they told Keeley Ringo, it's your time. And that time never happened. Keeley Ringo has straight line speed, but his hips, they don't transition. The second receiver makes one move, one half step, he's frozen in his tracks. As of right now, he has 1 or 2 years left on his rookie contract. If the Eagles can get a 2027 or 2028 draft pick for him, you take that and you do that deal today. And me personally, to keep him off of the field, I will drive him to the airport personally. Next, we have to talk about Grant Calcaterra. The Eagles just drafted Eli Stowers in the 2nd round, and right now he's basically a receiving tight end. That's Grant Calcaterra's entire role on this roster, because Lord knows that we all know that Grant Calcaterra cannot block to save his life. Dallas Goedert blocks and catches. Eli Stowers got drafted to be your tight end of the future. So what exactly is Grant Calcaterra's job now? Honestly, he wouldn't have one. If you can flip him, if you can get anything of value for him, you make that move and you move on. And the final person who may be on the cutting block is Andy Dalton, because the Eagles took Cole Payton in this year's draft, and right now he's in the building as a developmental quarterback. Dalton's roster spot is genuinely in question. He's older, he could be a camp arm, maybe a practice squad presence, but if a team does call for him, Howie's definitely going to pick up the phone. The Eagles have no extra picks for 2027. Every single one of these moves is about stockpiling for the future. Howie Roseman was aggressive in this year's draft. He gave up 2 4th-rounders to Dallas to move up a few spots to grab Mekhi Lemon. This team needs to reload, and this is the perfect, most strategic way to do that. And speaking of reloading, Howie Roseman just made a quiet move with Zach Baun that tells you exactly how this front office thinks. The Eagles restructured Zach Baun's contract this week. What it does is remove the guaranteed money in 2027 and 2028, meaning Philadelphia can release him as a post-June 1st cut in either one of those years with minimum cap damage. Zach Baun will be 32 years old in 2028, and before anyone panics, Zach Baun isn't going anywhere anytime soon. He's just coming off of an all-pro season. This is just Howie Roseman being Howie Roseman. He does this every single year. He likes to keep the window open just in case. And the reason why he needs to keep that window is because 2027 and 2028 are going to be massive contract years for the Eagles secondary. Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, these guys are going to deserve a contract extension, and Howie Roseman is going to need that cap space. So you protect yourself now, and you prepare for the future. And when this does come to an end, Jeremiah Trotter Jr. is waiting, and the Eagles love him. Smile Munden is still developing, and Jahad Campbell is going to flourish in a much bigger role. This linebacker room isn't going to fall apart if Baun eventually moves on. This is what separates Howie Roseman from most GMs. He's not just thinking about 2026. He's thinking about 2027, 2028, and keeping this window open as long as possible. And the last piece of the defense that still needs to be fixed is safety. And the Philadelphia Eagles might have just found their answer. Adam Schefter reported this week that veteran defensive back Kenny Moore was released by the Indianapolis Colts. 9-year veteran, 649 career tackles, 21 interceptions, 68 pass deflections. He was a Pro Bowl selection in 2021. But here's the interesting part. Schefter listed him as a safety, not as a corner. That's Moore's camp telling us that he's willing to make the move to extend his career. And the comparison that keeps coming up is Malcolm Jenkins. He didn't start his career as a safety. He transitioned into it. And it worked out pretty well for the Eagles. Now Kenny Moore is 30. He dealt with his Achilles injuries last year. It didn't become a full tear, but it's something worth watching. And yes, he's undersized at 5'9". But here's what matters. Nick Sirianni coached him with the Colts in 2018. They already have a relationship. The Eagles have had interest in Kenny Moore for multiple off seasons. And the Eagles are sitting at roughly $28 million under the cap right now. And Moore is not going to cost you a fortune on a 1-year deal. Right now behind Drew Makuba, who himself needs to stay healthy. The safety depth is generally thin. Michael Carter is being moved to compete, and Marcus Epps is still around. But to me, that's not a true solution. If Kenny Moore can make the transition, you have a veteran, a guy who knows the coaching staff, who can come here on a cheap 1-year deal and fill the last real hole on this roster. One position, one move, and this defense might be the best in the NFL. So where are we right now? The A.J. Brown trade is still happening. I just don't know who's going to be on the receiving end. The Mike Vrabel situation is messy, and it's not going away anytime soon. Whoever lands AJ Brown better be ready to pay, because Howie Roseman isn't giving him away for cheap. This defense is quietly being built into something dangerous. And UAR Bernard is going to be a name you're going to be saying for years to come. And if Kenny Moore signs, his roster is basically complete. Zach Baun is locked in for now, and the future at linebacker is already in the building. We are weeks away from OTAs. June 1st is right around the corner, and this offseason is far from over. And if you're not fired up about this Eagles team right now, then you're not paying attention. Drop a comment. Do you think AJ Brown still gets traded to New England? Or does another team drop in? And if you're not subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button right now. Hit that notification bell so that you don't miss a single video. And hit that like button if you enjoy the content and you'd like to see more. Let's build this thing together. And once again, I've been Brother Shy, and this has been the Midnight Green Mafia.